Johnson, and this is focused on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Pocondre, to educate, elevate, and promote. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia, also live on Kia Radio FM 95.9. My name is Dennis Job, and we are broadcasting live from Atlanta, Georgia. In today's edition, we're going to talk about the death of the former First Lady, Nancy Doe. She passed away at the age of 76. Also, we're going to be talking about the Liberian lady, that the nurse who died as a result of an alleged medical malpractice at the ELWA hospital. She died in Ghana seeking advanced medical treatment. Moslem holidays in Liberia, that's the new bill that has been proposed for religious holidays. So the one Christmas has a holiday, Ramadan, Abraham Day. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of that. Last but not the least, what happens when the newsmakers themselves become news reporters? This is the case where we have top government officials on what others call a propaganda show. What does that do to other media outlets like Focus on Liberia? We're going to discuss that. With me to talk about all this, I have Mr. Anthony Russell. Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on today. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Also, Belfina Deconti Yawon. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here today.
I have also Dr. Fidel Castro Budi. Welcome, Fidel.
Dennis, you're allowed to be calling the name. Check call the panelist Deconti. She preferred to be called Deconti. But no, anyway, it's good to be here and looking forward to another great show.
Thank you. Let me also welcome the new progressive commentator, Dr. Clarence Pearson. Welcome, Doc.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure being on the show tonight. I want to say hi to my fellow panelists and to the Liberian people listening out there. Y'all hello.
Thank you. Let me also welcome the former president of the River County Association in the Americas, Alice Wilson Mova. Welcome, Alice.
Thank you, Dennis. It's always good to be here.
And last but definitely not the least, we are on Kia Radio FM 95.9, and our anchor there is George Goer. Welcome, George.
It's good to be here this evening with you guys.
Thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Tough Talking Thursday. This is the time we talk very tough, and we have some issues that we're going to be discussing. Please, if you have not done so already, share the show, invite someone, and let's have a discussion. We woke up to the death news of the former First Lady. I mean, I watched a whole interview where she said, "I'm in my late corner." You know, former First Lady Nancy Doe passed away, and our condolences to the family and the people of Liberia. So, and you know, Liberian politics is interesting. First Lady, we know of a deal trying to get money. She had things with the lawyer and all that. But just on this, you know, let me start with Alice. You know, on hearing the death of the former First Lady, I want to just get your initial thoughts. I know it is appointed to men to die once, but sometimes the death, you know, come with all kinds of things. We are all
Thank you,
sad about this.
Dennis.
Alice.
Thank you, Dennis. You know, we all know everybody has to die, but if the death comes while you are in distress caused by somebody or something, that's a forceful death. So usually you hear Liberian people say it is not her time or it is not his time. So First Lady, First Lady of Liberia is so disheartening. We all heard a story, what she went through to get what was due to her. And she tried her weak way. We all know her limitation when her husband took over, but she did her best to follow up with everything that she had to get. And, you know, I can't understand Liberian politics. They take it so personal. And this lady had to run behind everything, no success. She had to go to ECOWAS. And I don't even know whether she got anything. So I'm going to hold my thoughts, but it's very disappointing if this is how we're going to lead this country or how we're going to live in Liberia, that people will hold on to little things, even people who are not responsible. Get politics out of it. She's a state woman, for God's sake, but now she's dead. Who do we hold responsible? People's action can cause bad things to happen to other people.
Thank you. Let me go to Anthony. Let me also say the cause of death is not known, but she passed away. Anthony, this thing about the office of First Lady, I think under President, we had the First Lady office had so much money. And so it started to maybe upgrade or downgrade from one president to the other. And there's always this thing about benefits. It's like, and then we say, well, when you were in office, what did you put in place and all these different things. Let's look at the life of Nancy Doe and the former First Lady of Liberia. What do you have to say concerning her passing?
First and foremost, I want to be grateful for being on this show today and, you know, my fellow panelists. I think that I'm going to hold my thoughts. I think it's a little too early to speak on, you know, such things, right? I think that it's a very emotional death. We've seen her. We don't know the cause yet, but we've seen her on multiple radio stations, you know, pleading or asking for help from the Liberian government for her benefits. And yeah, so now we were trying to be. I'm trying to be very cautious about what I say, and to also hope for more information as well too to come out about her death. You know, it might be a peaceful way that she, you know, she just left this earth, but we definitely saw her last days and how she was in public eyes, hoping to be, I say, looked at or looked after, you know, after her husband left as well. So, you know, we have to just take into consideration of the issue at hand and hope that we have more information to put to, you know, the paper. I mean, I'm stuttering right now, but yeah, I'm lost of words for you know, such a situation. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Booty. She's a former First Lady. I don't know if the government is going to do a state funeral or what really going to happen, because it appears that what has been happening is when you are not in power anymore, especially when you look at the circumstances surrounding the death of her husband, people have mixed reactions. What's your reaction?
I think first of all, just taking a lead out of Anthony's book, I think it's important that we recognize that a person has lost their life. I know one of her sons very well. He's a very good friend of mine here in the UK. I actually need to reach out to him. I've not done that yet. So yeah, I think we need to reflect on one, the fact that someone's lost their life, but also I think to try and look at her legacy, right? Did she have a legacy that we can look at to say, okay, look, what did Nancy Doe mean to Liberia? What are some of the things that she did to kind of empower Liberian, women? Now, I wasn't old enough to remember her time as First Lady. Obviously, recently we've seen with President Taylor when he was in power. I didn't really know what his First Lady did. But President Weir, his First Lady, tried to do some stuff. So no, I think for those who have the knowledge of what the late First Lady did in terms of her legacy, I think it would be good for us to remember her for those good things and just accept that, look, someone's lost their life. I think it's early, like Anthony said, for us to start to look at it in terms of, because she wasn't getting her benefit, maybe that might have contributed. I think the first thing that came to mind when I heard that was, I know a couple of her children who live outside of Liberia, and I know as Liberians, normally, if you got parents back home and you are in the diaspora where you're earning, a decent enough living, that you will share that with your mom. So I don't think she was completely destitute. I think, yes, she might have gone on radio to talk about her benefits, which she's entitled to or was entitled to. But I think it might be too early for us to start pointing fingers to say, because she didn't have money. I don't think she was a destitute. I think her children would have been, because I know that, like one of them very well, they would have been doing their best to keep her comfortable. So it might be natural causes. We don't know. And I think when the time comes, but for me, just to conclude, let's focus on her legacy. And again, anyone who knows her legacy, then speak out and tell us, okay, these are the kind of things that I know. She had a market named after her, the Nancy Doe, I think, right, the one in Sinco, Nancy Doe Market. Yeah. I've been in there many times. It's a good building. And yeah, I think those are the kind of things we need to remember her for.
Right. And Stephen and I were old enough to remember Nancy Doe when she was First Lady. I watched one of her interviews. They say, well, Madam former First Lady, there are a lot of things surrounding that when your president took over, you were in the market selling. That's the story we all heard. And she said, no, I've never sold. I was not in the market. I was home. So, Stephen, the name Nancy B. Doe, when you hear that name, what do you remember Nancy B. Doe for? That you can, not the rumor they used to say, she said, what to do just to eat and sleep. No, that's not that one. Or she said a lie.
Okay, thank you. I want to first of all say that may her soul rest in peace, and we should give a minute of silence to her. But my appeal, let's just bow our head and give her a minute of silence, because she's one of the fighter in Liberia. She's one of the mother who just went. So let's just honor her right now by giving her a 1 minute silence, and I can go over my statement. Well, thank you all. I say this because I remember Nancy Doe when she came to the marshal, and she transformed from being the native person to a whole civilized person. And they had a whole crew teaching Nancy Doe how to dress, the equity, the diplomacy, the travel, and every one of that. And I remember her inviting us children to her home in Matadi. At the time, they have not moved to Sinka. So she had an apartment in Matadi in the A line by the other guy called Doe, the other brother. And later on had another apartment at the area C in Matadi, and she would have children party, be a Christmas 26 and everything, and everybody would dance and happy. I was good of age. But I also remember her rubbing shoulders with the who's of the who's and the women in Liberia to par, the Minister of Health, Kwauneo Dokolo, the minister Beslow from commerce and all of that. So all that came to that prophet. I saw her on the Provident Island. My father used to be the custodian of the Provident Island. So, and the cultural tourism. She came on the island, have party for children, have party for us. They were giving my EJ role at the pavilion and all of that. And I just watched her transform into the different era and time. But I also look at what it is when you're in power and you are there for the people. So part of that for me, I think, mixture of a lot of things, grief, justice, things that were unanswered. And you could even see to a point that her children even had to stand behind her with a lot of stuff. I know there are a lot of plays and a lot of stuff, a lot seen will be seen and not be said. I may be wrong, but frustration, depression, I mean, all of the whole 9 yards. I think she didn't have much support from the country as a way to have promoted her in the longevity. I work with elderly people and I know how it is when you're getting old. Like you get a certain age, people put you back and it's being hard. Joel Howard Taylor the other day fight for all of the different things. I mean, first ladies, she was one of the first lady I would never forget. In 1985, I had opportunity to know an uncle who worked with her for the inauguration at the pavilion. So the Centennial Pavilion is on Ashmore Street. They decorated the pavilion and she came down with us out to where I lived at the time between Center Street and Verdi Street. It was called 99 Step. My father's house is down there. And she had three places she could buy her goods from. So she bought for Eddie's store, Eddie Textile. Eddie was the one who ordered all of the lace material, the curtains for the pavilion, and you name it, table club and all the different things they had. Even for birthday, 89 birthday day, she was always having her staff and people work. She also worked with a group of 77. I saw her taking rights to the group of 77, to the school of the blind, and even the different schools around town. And she did all of that at MCSS schools. They had cafeteria. Food went to the cafeteria from the president offices. So it's hard, and I will always remember her for the good and the bad and the ugly. But she's somebody that should be given that fitting entitlement in terms of what she did for Liberia. Maybe it will still go back to the native and the elite class, but she broke all stereotype and hit it. I was in Nigeria. She was also in Nigeria rolling with the Bamagidas and all of that. The Isaiah Bakuya and all those people go living in London and all of that. So she was able to transition from the village, like myself who here, to breaking the glass ceiling as a country woman, but stood for the ground to the point that Liberia, it was a name of marketplace in honor of her. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's look at the office of First Lady, and if you scan through our recent First Lady, how do you look at this office now, what it ought to be, what really it is, vis-a-vis the passing of this former First Lady?
Thank you. Well, first, I want to say my condolences to the family. And I'm glad that Mr. McGill was able to share what he did, because I don't know much about who Nancy B. Doe was personally, as it was not my time, although I have seen a lot of things of her in the archives. And so I can't really speak to who she was as a first lady, what she was able to accomplish or not accomplish. So it's kind of difficult to answer that question because I have nothing to compare it to. So I'll let someone else who has more of an understanding of who she was as a first lady take on that question. But my condolences to the family.
Right. What really I was asking you is that office of a first lady in general, right? What really does it mean? Are we going to look at it now going forward because we saw Nancy B. Doe crying for, hey, I'm out of office. I'm not getting what is due me. In fact, my husband's property, I don't get them. We saw the former First Lady, Joel Howard Taylor, complaining of benefits. We saw President Boakai, especially when people are not in power. So we know of presidents and ministers. What's about First Lady? What does that office really, what it is and what should it look like?
I mean, I think that oftentimes in a lot of societies, as a result of patriarchy, the first ladies often come across as kind of the accessories to their husbands, the trophies to the husbands. What I think it should be is I think a first lady is in step with whatever, once again, I keep saying the vision of the country is. And she is there as some will say, a sort of mother to the country, right? Whether it is the work that she do with the children, whether it is the work she do with those who are disabled, whether it is the work that she do with those who are poor. And so I don't necessarily see the role of a first lady as divorced from the role of the presidency. I think it is an extension, to be very honest, of whatever the presidency is. And I think that in her own way, in their own way, whoever the first lady is continuing that mission in different sectors, of course. One of the images that I remember seeing in the archives of Nancy B. Doe is when she paid a visit to the Johnson Publishing Company here in the United States in 1983. And if folks know, the Johnson Publishing Company is one of the biggest, largest Black publishing companies there exist in the US. And she took gifts from Liberia to Eunice W. Johnson at the time in order to show them, in some sense, what the culture is of Liberia. And in the coverage of this 1983 piece, they talked a lot about her fashion and her style and what she was able to teach them. And so I see that as an example of her promoting the cultural heritage of Liberia to another country, and also like a cultural exchange that is occurring there. So like I said, to sum it up, I don't see the role of First Lady as divorced from the role of presidency. I see it as an extension of that.
Thank you. Dr. Pearson, that role of the First Lady, and we saw President Weah's wife, the First Lady, was heavily criticized that the government has put a lot of money in our budget, to carry on projects. Now we have the cloud. So that role, is it like depending on who's in office, or because we have not really tried to make it part of our constitution or part of our governance structure? So it's like left like that, and it's not everything that's legislated though. So let's talk about the role of First Lady and how has that role changed over the years, as we remember the former First Lady Nancy Doe.
Thank you, Venice. And again, hi to our listening audience. I would like to begin by just saying, joining others to say our sympathy to the bereaved family. I'm aware just the other day, one of the daughters, I should say the daughter of the late President Doe, was at the executive mansion with President Boyka. And she was so excited that she had been out of the country for over 20 plus years. And she was just coming back to a native land. So I can understand that the emotions that she may be having right now, losing her mother at such a time that she's reconnecting with her home country. So I want to say my apologies to my sympathy to them on behalf of me and my family. But again, Dennis, for educational purpose, we do not elect first ladies to office in Liberia. In fact, we elect a president. So let us be very clear. There is nothing within our governance structure that says the office of a first lady. That shouldn't be there to begin with. I think it is because of
why? We don't elect everybody though. But go ahead.
Dennis, we don't elect first lady to office. We elect the president of the Republic of Liberia, and it is the man that we pay to do our piece of job. People drag along and tag along family members for the money, and that's where sometimes corruption is hidden in the monies that they pump into these individuals. It's sad that I will have to be making a statement on comments relating to the death of the of Madame Doe. So I just want the audience to know I'm not speaking directly about her. I'm just saying there's nothing in our constitution, our governance structure that says the office of the first lady is not an elected position. We elect the president of the republic, not a first lady. I think it's a position of expediency. And people feel obligated that if their husband is the president and they are close to power in that way, they feel obligated, some more obligation to identify with the population and show some level of motherly kindness to them. And I guess if the table was to turn, like Kamala Harris probably would have the first man trying to do the same thing, and that would be a different conversation altogether going forward. But again, I think I saw this firstly developing under child stayed up with what her name? Joel Howard Taylor. That was the first time I ever saw a first lady really stepping up. Not necessarily Nancy Doe. I didn't know her that well, even though she worked. Her husband worked along with my father at the time. But again, I would say this. This is where I want to go with this conversation, Dennis. Before I drop this mark for now. Listen, I would not sit on this show talking about the late President Samuel Doe's wife and get silent on history. For me, her death, like Prince Wild Johnson, her death rekindle one of the dark part of our history, where people lost their lives under a military junta, which was her husband, and she's a benefactor of that. She benefited from that. While others were losing their family members, their loved ones, her family were getting into power, and they were securing themselves to pillage the wealth of the country. A lot of families got deposed from Liberia because of her husband and her own family. They lost their entire family livelihood as a result of that. Some of them were exiled and never had to go back home. As we speak, they stay in exile. They've never gone back to Liberia. Some of them lost their connections back to Liberia. So I think it's a situation of mixed feelings. It brings back to us why we need to reconcile our country instead of, let's say, bygone be bygone and play like nothing happened in the past. And I think that what we are doing, just by discussing this without referring to history, I don't think we owe Madam Nancy Doe anything whatsoever. I don't think the country owes her anything financial-wise, monetary-wise. I think all of her husband's property should be confiscated and sold or auctioned and returned to the country, to the languishing populations we have there, because those wealth were ill-gotten. All right, it was done under an unconstitutional means, and they protected themselves under the Constitution of 1986 Constitution, Article 90, where they said everything that they did cannot be questioned, and that's why that covering is upon them today. So there's so much that we need to do about history and clean it up. And if we continue to cover up these things and pretend that nothing happened, giving Prince Johnson state funeral, spending public money on his burial when he's supposed to be accounting for crimes he committed against humanity, these are all misfortune of our country, and we should fix those things. That's what I think so far. But on the other hand, I really feel for her family as a human being. That's what I would say.
Thank you. In one breath, you said she was not elected, but now you're saying the sin of the elected person should be imputed on her.
Well, just for clarity, based on the question you just asked. Now, let me tell you something, Dennis. When Amos, the former finance minister, is it Tue, Mr. Tue, finance minister Tue, finance minister Samuel Tue, when Samuel Tue went through some legal issue with the United States of America, even his biological child was banned from the United States of America because of his actions in Liberia. These are politics we're talking here. And the thing about politics is that when people were being killed, their family were being destroyed by President Doe, it was because of the connections to the family that were in government prior. So we cannot pick and choose how we see how politics work. I'm not saying she's responsible for her husband's crime, but in a way, she bears some responsibility because of her ties to her husband. It's sad to say that, but that's the fact if we want to clean the past.
Thank you. Mr. Abdul Bouakar Dukle, your reaction to the death of the former First Lady, and you heard Mr. Pearson, Dr. Pearson say, hey, her husband did this, and so she shares the blame, and she, in a way, she should, feed the pinch.
Well, I think if we are going to track that route, we need to be consistent. You can't. I mean, this is almost like she's guilty by association. He earlier said that she wasn't elected. Mrs. Doe did not hold any elected position. She did not act as if she was elected to any position. This is a moment where it's a chapter in our history. This is a lady that was once the first lady of Liberia, and her husband did some horrendous things that we all know about. And we did pass that. And in particular, Nancy Doe embarked on a reconciliation with the people of Nimba. And I think she did her best as she could under the circumstances. And I don't know how much more she could have done to improve the situation, as Dr. Pearson alluded to. But with that said, constitutionally, according to our 1986 Constitution, Liberia did owe her some money as the First Lady of Liberia, and this was affirmed by the court in Liberia. So she followed the legal procedure, and she was given that. I mean, she won the case against the government of Liberia. Liberia being what it is, we don't follow our own laws as long as it doesn't benefit us. So it's like anyone else. If you lost a family member, you lost somebody, it's saddened to see somebody go. It's sad to see somebody die. But to associate the doing of Samuel Doe in the manner in which Dr. Pearson did to Nancy Doe, I think it's not fair to her. And you cannot be guilty for simply being associated with Samuel Doe. What did she do? Can anyone sit here and say this is what Nancy did when she was First Lady and it resulted to XYZ? I'm not saying there isn't. I don't know of any. And so she has passed. She's gone. I don't think we should be living in the past as we have tried to do on this particular show. We are forward-looking show. We are forward-looking people, and I don't think we should be beating on somebody who has already gone to her final, the great beyond, as we say in Liberia. So, it's a moment that was in our history, and that moment is gone. And let's consider for what it is.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dennis, can I just have 10 seconds to ask a question? Right?
And I was coming to you to close on this so we can move on to the next.
No, I don't want to ask
No, you gotta go around for the second time.
No, because
Mr.
Douglas said that the Constitution covers her in terms of us as a country owing her. I just did a quick search of the Constitution, and there's nothing in there about paying First Lady or giving her any money or whatever. So can he point me to what article in our Constitution that says that we need to pay the First Lady?
Well, I can answer to that.
Let's Douglas, you have an answer, or we can go to Miguel.
Well, you can go ahead.
Go ahead.
You can see it's not that it's written in the Constitution. The Constitution is not going to cover everything in pedigree or everything in a letter. I follow the trend of First Lady offices because I had opportunity. I was raised by Mrs. Lulu Whitmore, who was the sister of Victoria Talbot. And a lot of the conversation around is based on royalty. It's based on the mother of the house. It's based on the father and mother ruled. And every guest who came to the country, whether the First Lady was elected or not, she served as the mother of the house of Liberia. From Anthony Totman, my evidence to you will be the executive pavilion. What we got on.
So there's nothing in the Constitution. It's just by practice.
Yes, by practice.
Yes.
When you look there on the.
Yeah, that's fair. He was only talking about being in the Constitution.
He said the Constitution backs it. The Constitution doesn't.
Let me just learn.
And not misled. That's all I'm trying to clarify. That's all.
Yeah. For 10 seconds, we have a lot to cover.
So let me just learn. When you go down there, Totman's wife, Antoinette Totman from Cruiserville, the Portsmouth woman, there's a plaque there in her honor for the garden, for the trees we see in Monrovia today in the middle of Broad Street, the flamboyant flower.
That was not his point. That's why I want us to move on.
Okay.
But Dennis, I'll make a final point here. This particular issue was adjudicated by the court in Liberia. And the court said, yes, the Liberian government owe her.
But ECOWAS, she took her case to Nigeria,
right,
to
but
ECOWAS.
You know the case she took there was it because
Constitution. It's nothing in our.
No, I think her benefit.
Hold on.
She has entitlement.
I think she was.
Dr. Bodie, I think the point here is mute when the court asserted her rights, whether it's enshrined in the Constitution or not. But the court did with whole.
But that was not the office of the First Lady. I think she was after her husband. What her husband's supposed to get, right? has a
No, but
family.
it's not just that she was entitled. She had entitlement. She had benefits. She had pension benefit.
Okay, pension,
Yeah,
and if we
she
know
had
that
pension. She had entitlements and other
Whatever it
things.
was.
And they also owe. They also
Dennis.
owe.
Alex,
Dennis.
let me give you your 30 seconds because we have to move on to the next. So state your 30 seconds and we move on. Alex.
Okay. So basically, what I read also about the late Nancy Doe is in 1983, she helped to found a scholarship for Liberian students in Chicago University, State University. And then from her background as a Native woman, she broke the glass ceiling for those that never even throughout their life would never step in as executive mansion. And Liberia is nowhere you can compare to any decent country when it comes to guilt by association. Not because people kill other people because they were children of people that were in the government. So therefore, Nancy Doe died and we should be pounding on her. In the great United States, your father can be a criminal, but the child is not a criminal. You have to do something in order to be associated with a bad person. And you know, if Nancy Doe was not that, it was that evil, or if Doe was not that evil, that SKD Stadium wouldn't have been over there. There are other good things he did. He came from a particular sector of the Liberian population that he did something that made them to be in their own way to feel free in the country. So people may be villains, but they are heroes for other people. So I think Nancy Doe, we shouldn't be pounding on her. She never did anything. And I think Liberia should be so sorry that she died, because as a woman, a Native woman who couldn't read and write, I think she did a great job.
Thank you. Declan, do you think she should get a state funeral?
Oh yes.
You know, I'll let other people answer that.
On that note, we're going to move on to our next
Oh,
question,
yes.
and I will start
Oh,
with you
yes.
again.
She
Alex.
should get a
I
state
thought you said you were
funeral.
going to close on me, Dennis.
No,
on this
you
Nancy
said you wanted 10 seconds, so I give. Okay, go ahead and close. I thought that was
Yeah,
your
so I
question.
think to Miss Mulba, Wilson Mulba, nobody is pounding. I think Dr. Pearson's position is very clear. That look, she was the wife of the president. Unfortunately, we've seen in the U.S. when Barack Obama was president, Michelle Obama took a lot of stake because of her husband. So
What you in the forefront?
Sorry, let me learn, please.
Okay.
So yeah, she wasn't in the forefront. She was actually in the back seat. She deliberately. I've read both of her books. I read both of her books. She deliberately took the back seat because she didn't want to be seen as overshadowing the president because the attacks were too much. Don't try to let me digress and go somewhere else. You're trying to put me off. Don't do that.
Let's see what raising kids.
What I'm trying to make here is look. I've just read quite quickly these lawsuits you guys are talking about. Again, Mr. Dupley, these were for bank accounts in her husband's name, not money government of Liberia or her. You don't be telling people things that are not true. That's what I'm trying to get at. There's nothing in the constitution that says we should pay first lady. And then you say, oh, but she won case. Yes, because she won her husband's account, not Liberian government owing her money for work she did. That's not, go and read the thing, it's there. All Africa there. Other people have written about it. So let's give people the right information, please.
And Dennis, let me get my 10 seconds, I beg you, because my name is out there in a little bit.
Dr. Pearson, we got to move on.
Just 10 seconds, Dennis. My name
If
is
you're married to a husband, you got a benefit anyway.
Dennis, just 10 seconds. Dennis, just 10
Dr.
seconds.
Pearson, we got to move on.
Dennis, just 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
Let's move on.
Dennis, 10 seconds. 10 seconds. 10 seconds.
You are holding us back. Go ahead.
Yeah, just 10 seconds. Look, Liberian people, I have nothing against Madame Doe, the late Madame Doe. In fact, I'm deeply hurt by her passing as a mother of our country. But I will say this again. People have committed atrocious crimes in Liberia, and those crimes must be addressed. When people commit crimes in Liberia, when those crimes are not addressed and we say, let bygone be bygone, we are not helping Liberia, we are endangering the future of our children. Until we can address our past, people cannot just be given a free pass and say, let's give them state funeral because they were in government. When they were in government and they did some things that were out of the way or by association, they must be tried And if they found not guilty, we can give them their flowers. If they are found guilty, they must pay for the crimes that they are associated with or that they have committed individually. Thank you.
Dr. Pearson, someone asking, can you say the same argument for VP Taylor?
Yes, I can say that as well. Yeah, I can say that for any first lady.
All right, good. That takes us to the death of the Liberian nurse who died as a result of the complication at ELWA Hospital. And this is not in a vacuum, because we have just seen where the president of the Liberian Medical Association was being, his license was being taken away from him because they said, oh man, you don't even have the license to practice. So anytime we hear malpractice, we think about all those things. Alice, I know you as a nurse, so let's talk about the case. You said you went there for, and this was a basic, I don't want to say basic since I'm not a medical person, it's a serious session, and it ended off, in a very complicated way. What are your thoughts? And the second part to that is, let me first hear the medical part of it. Go ahead.
Well, it is so disheartening that she had to lose her life for something, that was nothing to have killed her. Cesarean section, is something that most people, or a good number of people in a society, go through. I also had a cesarean section when, you have some emergency, the same issue, baby is delayed, supposed to give birth, maybe 1 or 2 weeks overdue. You go to a doctor, they want to induce the pregnancy and have the baby. But what happened to the lady is still shocking, that all her organs started shutting down just to remove her baby. And, they need to investigate this, because she said that they should go ahead and investigate everything that she went through. So this woman practically was crying, and when she was alive was the best time for somebody to come forward and investigate and see exactly what happened to her. ELWA normal days, I know everybody was young back then, but it's one of the respected, or was one of the respected hospitals in Liberia. JFK, ELWA, Catholic Hospital. But now you have to think twice before you take your family to these hospitals that used to be top-notch states in the country. So I don't think this lady should have been dead for something as simple as a cesarean section. I don't think so. So there could be more to that, as she said, because she's a nurse. She knows exactly what's supposed to happen. So if she's crying, we need to look into that. But it's very, very unfortunate that this will happen to some of the hospitals, or happen in some of the well-respected hospitals like Liberia has. Where else do we turn to?
Thank you. Russell, do you know why this was not investigated while she was still alive? Now she's dead. Maybe it could be coincidence or anything, but do you know why?
Well, I want to send my thoughts and prayers out to the family. I don't think that is enough, right? Because I don't think that Liberians are learning. We're not learning. This is not the first person that has passed away from medical, malpractices in Liberia. The government, the lawmakers, they don't go to the tables and sit down and say we should make laws to put the right equipment in these hospitals to prosecute these people. Look at recently we just learned about, I'm not sure, one of the directors that was hired without without the right credentials. So, when you have hospitals like ELWA, like JFK, and other hospitals in Liberia that are not being trusted, the trust are going down the drain, right? What does that say about our medical system in Liberia? That is very poor, and that that our people, our lawmakers, the people who we elected to really put pen to paper and to make things better, they're not doing anything, because none of them have even came out about this thing to even say anything about it. And this lady begged them while she was on that hospital bed dying. She begged them. She said, please investigate, at least to find out what happened. But they sat there, they were complaining about everything else but the hospital stuff that they should be complaining, that they should be regulating or finding solutions for. So I think that we are not doing our people's justice. And I mean by we, I mean the House of Legislature. We are not doing our people justice. And we need to start to understand that healthcare is one of the things that you don't play around with in a country like Liberia. Or when people start to be very cautious about, if they should go to hospital when they're dying, they will just be at home and they will pass away. Or let's say a contagious disease happen, they'll be at home and our entire family will catch that disease as well if they lose interest in a public system. So the question should be, what is our representative doing or our lawmakers doing to improve this situation, to bring those people to justice? Because it should not just be malpractice. If a malpractice happens, you should go ahead and investigate that hospital, and no one should be able to operate. That entire hospital, if not, should be actually investigated or probably closed down, lockdown. But they're not doing these things. They're running around here talking about who's going to be the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now they got the Speaker. Can we focus on it? Let's ask them that question. Can they bring power to that hospital so that they can assess the situation, that they can investigate, they can put these people, because the person that did the procedure, the person still works there.
Yeah.
Stephen,
the people that they still work there. And what the director of that hospital, we haven't seen him come in public to even address any situation. So what are we really doing here?
Stephen, I know you are close to a hospital too. In fact,
yeah, I'm kind of like, we'll do my 10 minutes and go in the background because my clock starts at 5. What I'm saying to you is that in Liberia, we are very selective. This woman was alert. She knew there was something wrong because she had medical knowledge. How many other Liberian women don't even know what this fact is? I watched it in Liberia and I cry every day for each B-better who died. I had a friend who was working on the beach that I managed in Liberia. She wanted to give birth to the hospital. She needed to do C-section. They let her deliver by herself, and she got torn apart. They didn't even have vitamin K. The family had to throw her in a pickup back to JFK. By the time they reached JFK, she was pronounced dead on arrival. It happened every day, every day. My own experience in the last few days, I have an uncle that I brought to Monrovia to my father. He had stroke. I took him to ELWA hospital while on the phone with my nephews. They didn't have bed. They take him to JFK, they didn't have bed. At the end of the day, the same thing with women giving birth. It's not just the whole health system is few people. I know Parker, when he came to power, he said he won't go outside for treatment. He will go to JFK, but you go to JFK today, it's still bad. I got my nephew as a doctor. I supported him. He's a doctor working in the maternity ward, the dependent maternity ward. They're having babies 24/7 back to back, and some other people don't even make it to see it. So they should be drawn home holistically from the village down to the periphery of the central level. And this is unacceptable. In America, people pay for malpractices. I got an aunt who went through the C-section in America here and they left something in her body. The hospital is still paying today. In Liberia, they just let people go for free.
And why?
Talk less about the power. Because I'm talking to the doctor, he said, you trust your nephew enough to send him to the hospital. So I'm not talking to anybody because he's afraid that I'm on the other side of the line. I'm telling him, I'm looking at my uncle and I think he had UTIs. I think he's having confusion and he's having a second stroke because he have had episode. I've been watching the children on the phone and telling him, this man is having a condition. He's looking one place, he's looking confused. Think about it and take him to the hospital. In no time when I dropped the phone, they say he was conversing. I said, you're taking the ELWA hospital. They didn't even have bed for him. They took him to JFK, Cattle Hospital, they didn't even have bed. They took him to JFK, they didn't have bed, but every government official run all on Liberia to go seek treatment, medical tourism in Ghana and other places, and the masses are still dying. Every day we're dying.
Thank you. But Fina, and this Ghana, I don't know, because we have Ghana now, so people go to Ghana because Liberia medical system can't help it. And in my recollection, almost everybody that I know went to Ghana didn't make it. But yet we continue to go there. I don't know what is happening. I just lost my cousin in Morovia at 78, and I also lost my aunt here. But the life, my aunt was like 105. So, and two different medical systems. I'm looking at Liberian because just a few weeks ago we had an issue with Peter Matthew George, and so when we hear that something malpractice occur, we are thinking, okay, so what is the remedy? What are we doing to prevent this thing happening over and over again? And is anybody looking? Is anybody concerned? We've been so inundated with the politics of everything, speaker election and speaker this, and these are the only things we talk about. How can we really approach this situation to remedy it?
Well, for one, Liberia has one of the world's highest maternal mortality rates. And part of the reason why we have one of the world's highest maternal mortality rates outside of poverty is the medical industrial complex. And where does the medical industrial complex comes from? It comes from capitalism, right? Where the whole point of medicine is an extraction of profit. And so when you have the medical industrial complex, things like malpractice happens, right? Medical malpractice is not something that is isolated. It doesn't just happen just because. It happens because people in the medical field, as a result of capitalism, gets to decide whose life is worthy of saving and whose life is not, right? And so if you have the money and the access, your life can be saved. And if you don't, too bad. And so when we think about what can we do about this?
Before you continue, you think that's the issue in Liberia? Because capitalism?
Well, yes, capitalism is an issue worldwide, right? And if you look at somewhere like Cuba, Cuba actually has one of the lowest maternal mortality rate in the world. Their maternity mortality rate is lower than the US and lower than Canada. It is because Cuba is a socialist country in which healthcare is free for all of its citizens, and they have invested in preventative measures, right? So if you see that capitalism is able to thrive in the US, it thrives in Liberia, and we look at the medical system, but then we look at somewhere like Cuba, in which you are getting high quality free healthcare, and their stats look gravely different. We have to begin to say, what are the systems that allow for these things to happen? Right? Liberia, one, we look at things like the production of vaccines. We look at things like access to medical equipment. All of that is as a result of capitalism, right? What we get and what we don't get, right? You look at a country like Cuba that was the first country in the world to eliminate mother-to-child transmission of HIV. Why are they able to do that? Cuba has been able to send doctors around the world, which when we start to think about who are the countries and what are the places that Liberia has to build relationships to, I would say, why are we not talking to Cuba? Why are we not sending our doctors to Cuba?
And why not Russia?
Well, Russia is also a choice, right? But I'm looking particularly at Cuba because we have a history in the 70s, right? Particularly when Tolbert was presidency. That is not a new history. So I'm pointing to Cuba because Cuba does have a history of working with African countries, of being in alignment with African countries around issues of healthcare and other things. So that is why
I was talking about the correlation between this health system and socialism. So you use Cuba as an example. Can you also use Russia as an example?
You could. A lot of socialist countries tend to have very good medical systems for a reason.
Okay.
That is.
All right, go ahead. You have 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. So I tend to disagree with her when it comes to Liberia because the issues in Liberia don't really have anything to do with whether it's free healthcare or not. There are people, as evident by all the doctors that we discovered recently, that are not qualified. It has to do with qualification. Some people don't know what they are doing. So they work with, like the girl who's died. The girl who died. The girl who's dead right now. Right. The girl who is there right now, it's not because she didn't have money, so she couldn't be treated in Liberia. I mean, she could have gone out of the country if she had money. That's a different case. But within the country, she's a nurse. She had money per the local, requirement to save her life, to have a baby. But that did not happen. It's because somebody who is not qualified decided to work on her and did something to her that they were not supposed to do. The doctor that I saw recently, who claimed that he graduated from the UK, we need to discover that he never even went to the university. Those are the kind of people we're talking about. There was a lady again who died. She didn't go to the hospital. She didn't have the money. She went to another person within the community, midwife. But guess what happened? She went to have the baby and she died in the person's house. So these people are not qualified, but because they want to get quick money, they decide to work on other people, putting their lives at risk. I think that's how I see it.
And when that happened, are they held accountable?
They are not held accountable, and that's why they are not careful. Because if you did something wrong, even as a nurse, you work in a hospital or any place, and your client or your patient, you did not take good care, maybe you were careless, and they were conversing, you didn't pay attention. If anything happens to them, they're going to investigate. Even if a person is seriously sick, once they die during their shift, they're going to find out how it happened. And when you are guilty, or when they suspect that you were careless, you're going to go for investigation. But nothing like this is happening, in Liberia. Something happened, let bygone be bygone. We are in the same community. People need to be held accountable.
Can I actually, I would like to comment, because the thing is, I want to disagree with that, because the issue of maternal mortality rate is not isolated to Liberia. Currently in the United States, we are having an issue of Black women dying in hospitals, right? Constantly. I work with a lot of midwives, and we're seeing that occur. The reason why something like this happens is because of the medical industrial complex. I think oftentimes in Liberia, we like to pull on the easier things, right? And we don't talk about the full scope of what is happening. Yes, I agree with you. There are doctors who are going into these hospitals without the qualifications, but part of why are they doing that? Capitalism. Why are they going in and showing fake degrees in order to get jobs, right? Outside of ethics, of course. When we even talk about midwifery, right? The reason why women are dying at the hands of midwifery in a rural area is not because they're not necessarily qualified, but they do not have the materials to be able to do that. Capitalism and access. And so me and you are not saying two different things. Our whys of why we're saying it is what is different, right? You're pointing to the individuals, right? You're saying because of these individuals, this is happening. What I'm saying is, as a result of capitalism, these.
Well, you look at an overview,
and then
I get your point. Of course.
Two different perspectives.
Yeah, I get your point.
The reason why I even brought up Cuba is because Cuba has had an embargo on them since the 1960s. Cuba is considered one of the nations that have been cut off from resources, right? To this point, when you go to Cuba right now, you see people in lines in order to get things like sugar and beans. You think about Wi-Fi, right? They have a limited access to resources, and yet, despite this limited access to resources, they have one of the best healthcare systems in the world.
Thank you. Dr. Pearson.
Thank you, Dennis. Let us be a little bit more technical about this conversation, because I think there can be multiple things happening at the same time, and they all can be true, given our situation in Liberia. So let me start by saying, first of all, we do regret the death of this young lady, Jamesetta. And whilst it is true that she felt that she was probably not catered for properly, that's not something we can clarify or justify right now, because it would take maybe an examination to prove that. But the fact remains that people in Liberia do suffer unnecessarily and die as a result of circumstances that could be preventable. But let me be quick to mention here that the MDGs target that at least by 2060 or so, we should have 2030 as a put, we should have at least 70 deaths per 100,000 deaths. Right, Liberia, we used to be around 1,700. Sometimes in 2020, I think it was 2020 was a 1,700. 2000, I think it was 1,700 deaths plus per every 1,000 person in Liberia. Now we cut it down to 600 per 100 deaths. So I think we're making some progress. we shouldn't beat ourselves up because we have some misfortune. So we just been a picture of our country out there that is not actually the case on the because in compared to Ghana, Guinea, Ivory Coast. Ghana right now has about, I think, around 200 deaths per 100,000 women. Guinea and Ivory Coast around 400 deaths per 100,000 women. So yeah, we still have some progress to make. Now I worked at ELWA hospital before, volunteered there for over, I think, what, 2002 to 10. I did see a lot of unfortunate things happening there. It was not because people intentionally wanted to hurt Liberians, but we just didn't have the equipment to work with. I remember we had some doctors coming from America who went there to do some charity surgery and enter into the operating room, and the guys were like, what are the equipments we're about to work with? So you got, everything is right here right now that you need to work with. And the guys were like, oh, we can't work like this. But and they were astonished. They were astonished.
And why is that? Why we don't have the equipment? Is it because
then another show? You don't have time for all that one. But I think what I would say is that, and the guys were like, they were impressed with the level of achievement of our doctors with the limited resources they have.
Yeah, because of this same did well mentality, right?
No,
my daughter was in the class with them, and she told they said, "Oh, this is good." I went there, I said, "No, it's not good." She's an A student. So somebody come and they know that you are there and say, "Oh, at your level, this is good." That's what you're telling me?
Dennis, why you give me a hard time? Medical, the state of the art medical equipment is not, those are not small monies we're talking about here. Let me tell you something. Joseph Barker will have to give up that Lexus 800 series that costs $1,200,000 to make JFK to have a state-of-the-art medical center that we needed to be. So I agree with you. Our politicians are favoring themselves over our people. I'm not arguing that, but what I'm saying here is that we've made some progress in maternal mortality over the past couple of years, and I want to just say medical malpractice is not something easy to identify or to prove. Let me say this for a fact, Dennis. Wherever in the world you go to, people die in operating rooms. There will be many factors that will impact a patient's health in complications that they will have in the operating room and other when they go to seek care. Now you have to prove negligence, to an extent that the person, genuinely,
well, how do you prove it? You do an investigation. That's the point. They're not doing investigation.
They gotta investigate.
Dennis, I'm not saying we can't do investigation. Listen, if they left I alone, let's give the dying woman her last wish. That's not what I'm saying. But I think what I'm trying to get across is that Liberia has made some progress with maternal mortality from 2000 to now. We have 1,700 deaths per every 100,000 pregnant women. We're making some progress, and I want people to know that we can do better. I would say that we can do better, but our political leaders, and I think we need to invest more in healthcare. We have said this a lot, and we need to say more. I just want to make sure that we're not, just painting a picture that is not actually the fact.
Dr. Buri.
I think I'm going to disagree with most of the things that Dr. Pearson said. I think, first of all, I agree with Belfina that it's rooted in capitalism. And I was just taking a quick look at her article, and what is going on in Liberia and has gone on for years. And I know Dr. Pearson's pointing out from 1700 to 628. That's not good enough, right? Why can't we be 200 like Ghana, right? What stops Liberia from being 200 or 150? Or, why should we stop at 600? Why should we accept 600? The fact of the matter is, you have individuals in our government who are agents, like Belfina would put it, of capitalism and neocolonialism. They are there to enrich themselves, right? They are there to empower these concessionaires to come in and exploit our people for their benefits, right? The monies they're supposed to be going into developing. Look, at the end of the day, I've been to ELWA recently. Last year, I went to do a charitable mission and to distribute some stuff. I've got a serious interest in infant health, right? And it's unacceptable for you to sit here and tell me, we can't prove negligence. Okay, let me prove negligence for you. When you take a budget of 800 million and take 700 million of that budget and spend it on your personal wealth and lavishment, right? That's negligence, because you're neglecting healthcare. You're neglecting education. Where the money? Because at the end of the day, you can sit here and tell me, "Oh well, we know what are the things that they did at ELWA kill her." Well, we know because if ELWA was equipped, she didn't got to fly all the way to Ghana because the hours and hours that she took to fly to Ghana, even if the complication wasn't as bad, it got worse on the way. So that's negligence, right? So you can't sit here and tell me, "Oh no, we can tell." Right? These idiots that we have in power who are stealing the country money are committing violence against our people. This lady died because Joseph Boakai decided to, and I'm happy you pointed out, buy himself a bulletproof car. Nobody won't kill you, papi. All year, I can't tell the last same talk, but we kill president here. So why we won't kill you? Nobody behind you. Joe, we have been passing around the time. You should be drinking liquor. All right, nobody kill you. Ellen Johnson, they throw egg on her car. Nobody, like you, who already in the grave, that somebody can't kill you. Why would somebody kill you? You go waste all that money. I just did a quick Google search before opening my mouth to speak. A dialysis machine here in the United Kingdom is about 700 pounds. Ask how many dialysis machines we get in Liberia. They got to fly one from Jackson Edo to bring it to Monrovia for somebody. By the time you move from Jackson Edo to County, the person not die already. And you telling me you cannot see the negligence? Is that what you're wanting me to believe, Dr. Pearson? That you cannot see the negligence and we can't prove negligence? The negligence is clear. On the point of equipping our hospitals, look, yes, we must commend our doctors because they're working under extremely difficult circumstances. These guys study. Some of them have gone outside of Liberia to study. They've got good training, right? A lot of them have got good training. But when they come back, right? And Delphina mentioned Cuba. I was in Cuba for 3 months in the early 2000s, and I saw with my own eyes. I got a friend of mine living in Manchester who was there with me, who had an operation. Since that operation till today, no complication. In the UK, when you have operation 2 years later, you can get complication. Since the operations in 2001 till today, she hasn't had a complication, right? Something was embedded in her skull. They took it out. Till today, right? There is no complication. That's how good. It's not about massive things. It's about looking. Look, recently I was talking to a friend of mine who has a health center. I'm going to end soon. Who has a health center?
And you know, we can have this discussion on capitalism and socialism. But
no, I'm not going on capitalism.
So just look at all these factors and say capitalism, socialism is responsible for this.
There are cheaper options, right? We ain't got to go to America to buy. You can go to India. India has cheaper medical equipment that we can buy. Right, that's the point I want to make. You go to Cuba, they're not using the American equipment, and some of the equipment that we see it looking some kind of way, right? But at the end of the day, you buy. Oh, I'm being serious. Some of the equipment that India is there. Like the charity I've got here now that I'm working with my friend Wayne Liberia, we decided, okay, do we get equipments like incubators from the UK? Will be very expensive to repair a high, or should we buy in India where we can get access to the parts easier? The government of Liberia, if they wanted to, could do that. And we need to lay the blame for every Liberian woman that dies at the feet of these greedy idiots in our government. You have the president pro tem going around telling, oh, we need to do something about infant mortality, but she's spending about 1 million a year as her office budget when women are dying in Liberia, and then she's doing lip service to the Liberian people. And you say you can't see the negligence?
Thank you.
Can I add my 2 cents to that before you move on to the next panelist?
Right. Yeah. You can go ahead. And Dr. Pearson, if you take for instance medication error. If you're supposed to give the person 1 tablet, you give 2. I mean, how is that not easy to prove? But go ahead, Anthony.
I was gonna say we also have to look at the mental aspects of our people that were employing the medical field, right? Even with all the right equipment, they still, after a hard long shift, they might not be mentally there for them to even. So what about if this person, like I said, I'll go back to that person that did the operation, right? If they're still working, what kind of mental struggle are they going through right now? That somebody's death is on their hands and they are currently working at ELWA and we allowing them to just work. We don't know that if they're not, like, if they're mentally incapacitated to work. So that's another thing to look at as well too, because we are allowing individuals to just do things, and our government, our government officials are not doing anything about it.
Yeah, thank you, Dugley.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead and then Bill.
You know, Dennis, this is very unfortunate, and this is nothing new. I don't know. Somebody was just saying earlier. Look, Ms. Jamesetta, her case has become, publicized, but this is a common occurrence in our medical system. This is something that is not new. It's just that the way this one was publicized. You see, Dennis, I live in a country that has social medicine, and we are next door to the greatest. I don't know how to describe it, but we are a neighbor to the great United States, where you never hear about, the benefits of Canadian medical system. So, and what I tell people all the time is this: we can argue about the quality, but the fact that every citizen, every legal resident has access to it, that's a big difference. It makes a big difference. So for our case, for our situation, I think Belfina raised a good point when it comes to Cuba. Cuba is one of the places in the world where they are deprived of so many things, but yet they were able to make sure that their medical system is one of the best in the world. Cuba makes sure that their sporting activities is one of the best in the world, despite having little to nothing. And yet they were, as a matter of fact, Cuba is the country in the world that has the highest number of medical doctors per capita. So, and so a country like Liberia, where politicians are only about
what is responsible for that? I mean, the Cuban example.
All thanks to me. All thanks to Fidel. Yeah.
Yeah, Fidel Castro, good one. Yeah, I like that. So Dennis, a country like Cuba, you just need to go to them and say, I want this. They will give it to you. I mean, I remember 1985. I was a little kid traveling from Liberia going to Mali, and the Cuban engineer were building the road from Kisidugu to Kankan because the government of Guinea went there and asked for their assistance. All we need to do is to ask them. Let me tell you, all the hospitals in Liberia will be flooded with Cuban doctors, and they are top-notch doctors. It's not as if to say there are some Liberian people say flag doctors. No, they are top-notch doctors. Because our government don't engage in anything that they don't individually benefit, they don't care. Okay? So, and I just wanted to disagree with Sister Belfina here when she said these are individuals. No, the individuals are operating within a bad system. These individual doctors are operating in a system that shouldn't exist. Otherwise, I mean, all these things we are talking about, people going to Ghana, since when people leave from Liberia and go to Ghana for medical help. But it tells you where our system, where our country have gone. It just tells you how we have become so degraded in every aspect, in every sphere, where politicians are only concerned about their well-being and nothing else. And so we don't need to talk about capitalism here, socialism there. Just ask the Liberian government to go to the Cuban, and they will get all what they need when it comes to doctor, when it comes to assistant. Right. Like Fidel was saying, they don't have expensive equipment in Cuba, and yet they are able to do their jobs. Look, you go to Cuba, you see a doctor in the hospital, a neurosurgeon in the hospital in the morning. In the afternoon, he's selling a Docafle in the market. There's neuroscience that you saw in the hospital in the morning. So the idea is, we have not prioritized improving our healthcare system. That is the problem. Until such time that we give it the attention it needs or the attention that it deserves, we're not going to make any headway. All these people coming from all over the place and presenting all these false credentials, it's got to do with the system we have in place. I personally have passed it. Yeah.
Thank you. I want also, because I am sorry, I'm pushing you for time, but just 30 seconds. How do we change this? What do we do?
Can I just make a quick correction? I just want to say, Mr. Dukley, I wanted to make a correction. I didn't say they were individuals. I said the opposite. I said it's important that we understand that these are not just about individuals, they're about a system. So I know I heard you just say you disagree with me, but I was saying the opposite of what you just said. So we are in agreement together, you and I.
Well, one second.
Thank you.
Dennis, we need to
just end with, how do we fix this?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. We need to radically revamp the entire medical system. where we need to bring in a system that will account for each and every member of that association or organization that is responsible for medical services in Liberia.
I think the best way is what Dr. Pearson said last week. Put all these corrupt politicians in one container and ship them to North Korea, and then bring good politicians.
The story is told of Crab, right? You know Crab? Every time Crab was dancing, Crab will go on the side, right side. Every time Crab dancing. So the Crabs themselves, they got really tired with this situation. And they decided among themselves, they look for the best and brightest and send them abroad to study how to dance. Just not by dancing and going one side, right? So they sent this guy away. He studied, he did everything. And when he came, the big meeting was called so that he can dance, so that they can look at him now and just teach them how to dance properly instead of just every time Crab dancing on one side. Unfortunately, when that guy started to dance, he started going one side. So they said, but wait now, what's the point of sending the guy away? So up to today, you watch Crab dance or walk, they still go on one side. So it appears to me that the Crab will send away, even if you put those people in continue sending to North Korea, the next Crab will probably dance on the same side, Dr. Booty.
You know, Mr. Ja, I think the reason why that is, this is where I not necessarily disagree with Mr. Dukali, but want to add, I think it is important to say that this country is socialist and Liberia is not. I think the reason why Cuba has the level of doctors that they have, the reason why their healthcare looks the way that it does, despite them not having resources, is because they have a shared vision and a shared political pedagogy about what they're doing in that country. And so we can't separate that from what we're seeing in Liberia. And that is the reason why you can pack all of these politicians in a barrel and ship them off to another country, and you will recreate another cohort, another generation of the same, because the political pedagogy is not there. Cuba has it, right? Everyone there, the citizen, is under the same understanding of what they want out of their country and their government. They're working towards it. So I think oftentimes when we think that we can divorce Liberia's political stance from the state of the country, that is not so. And so I want to make and just add that point. And I also want to say to Miss Alice, I want you to know, I hope you didn't think I was being disrespectful. I tend to talk with a lot of passion in my voice. I don't want anyone here to It's just the way that I am is the way that I talk. But I think you and I were agreeing. I was just attempting for you to see another side of what I was saying. That we were
of course.
Thank you.
Of course. I say it was overview. You addressed the overview part. And I addressed the individualistic part.
So Alice, use that time now so that you can tell us, how we solve this problem, because the crab's still going one side.
Well, I already said it, okay? In every system where you do not have accountability, where you do not investigate, because right now what happened to that girl, if it is here, the press is going to go to the hospital. The hospital administration going to have press conference to explain to the public what went wrong. Have you seen any of that on the social media or any video? Let me know. So it's all boils down to, because if you're not investigating, if you're not holding people accountable, they will continue to do the same thing. The system might be there. In the system, you have those that are qualified and others who are not qualified. So people continue, those who are not qualified, even those that are qualified will make mistakes. But when they make those mistakes, you have to follow up, and through investigation, they might correct themselves so that it will not happen again. Now that things don't happen in the States, I work in the hospital for over 15 years. Things do happen there, but they get investigated. At the end of the day, people will say, we do this so that it will not happen again. People learn from their mistakes. But we tend to let everything go. I think it's the system that cannot be corrected. Even if you don't have the resources, then once you have, work with them. You don't have to make mistake with them. If you don't have blood pressure machine, go to the other hospital that has it. But you can't say, because I don't have blood pressure machine, I'm going to use my hand, and then come up with some number. And that's, in some instances, these are what happening.
Thank you, Dr. Pearson. How do we face this?
Thank you, Dennis. I just want to clarify something Dr. Booty said, and I will say that, but I will answer that question. You know, Dr. Booty, I wasn't saying that politicians are not negligent when it comes to how a healthcare system is being imparted. No, I was talking about the health practitioner himself or herself.
No, but you can prove
are not cases that are easily proven when it comes to malpractice. You got to clearly show negligence, and that's not an easy thing to do. Most of the time, there are a lot of patients sign off on some of the things that could go wrong during the surgery, and the doctors are covered by those signings. So I don't want to go there more, but again, I just want to clarify that. You know,
yeah, no, but that statement is hard to prove. That's not true.
You know, Dennis is hard to prove. Dennis is hard to prove. In fact, I don't want to go there. I've done another show.
No, let's go there.
Yeah, no, Dennis. Let me say, my mother died in 2003, and the reason why, and I had to go to Liberia, I just gone there April to celebrate her birthday and my birthday because it's in the same month along my other sister's birthday. And then I left. Immediately when I left, a month after she died, and I had to go back to bury her. Let me tell you why she died. She died from a treatable disease, but I couldn't lay my hands on longitudinal, historical health records. Whenever I needed her health records, I couldn't get any from the different health facilities that I took her to. So, like say, for instance, if I went to her today to visit and I said, let me see your medical record from the last time, let me see it from the time before, I could not lay my hands on those records. I went after health facilities and one after the other and still couldn't lay my hands on her health records to understand her history. And then eventually...
So you have to prove in Liberia. That's what you mean?
Yeah, we think we're talking Liberia then. It's why I'm talking Liberian English right now. So you know, and then when she passed, the thing that hurt me more is the fact that I feel that if I had her medical record, I could have gotten second opinion. I could have gotten my friends who are medical doctors as well to provide some guidance as to what I could do to help her to prolong her life. Now I have a bill that I drafted and I'm trying to get those guys to see if they can pass. I talked about medical data protection and privacy rights for patients. Because you see, some of these things that are happening, to prove they got to have medical records that are showing the patient's track record of the care. And sometimes the doctors, the negligence of the doctor is easily proven when you can look at the patient's chart over a period of time and say, but you should have known this and you should have known that and you should have known this. Why didn't you
on the kind of medical malpractice? But let's leave that. I want you to give solutions.
One of the things we can do
is to move to the next topic.
Is to strengthen our laws, Dennis. We need to strengthen our laws. We need more laws that will protect patients. And like you see, and then those laws will tie those doctors and health professionals down so that when they do make mistakes or when they do go outside of the law, we can hold them accountable.
Fair point. Thank you. On that, we're going to move to our next.
Let me just say something quickly, Dennis.
Yeah.
Dr. Pearson, about 80% of Liberians who die from malpractice will be able to, well, they can't tell you, but their family will be able to tell you. So when you go to the hospital and have an operation, and then you go home and that operation open and then you bleed to death, you can prove malpractice, right? So trust me, you can if you want to.
Thank you. And even with the existing laws, anyway, I don't want to go to the laws because some of these laws are there.
They say just operation, not EGB. You will be the first person to start a GB.
Dennis, don't go too far. One of the main reasons why healthcare is not that affordable in the United States is the cost of the malpractice. Because that's one of the reasons. Yeah, the malpractice insurance and the cost is usually passed on to the patient. So for that, and the laws are deterrent. People are afraid of losing their license and all kinds of things. But we don't have anything like that in Liberia. So nobody is afraid of being accountable for anything, and so they don't care.
Yeah, even when women in pain, they laugh and they say, "Who care you there?" But that takes us to our next topic, which is the bill in the Senate. Okay, they call it the religious holiday. The one religious holiday. I mean, this is not new. We've heard that people from the Muslim community say, we want Ramadan as holiday. We want Abraham Day. At least give us one, because we have Christians holidays and we don't have Muslim holidays. So give us something. So this time, there are some senators who decided to put pen to paper, introduce a bill to say, let's have Christmas as a holiday, because Christmas officially is not a holiday, right? We even though we have tons of holidays, some that don't even make sense, but they want us to introduce holidays. So I told somebody, I said, actually, this is the Muslims have been calling for this, because in other countries like Sierra Leone, they have Christian and Muslim holidays side by side. So they want the same thing in Liberia. All right. So the bill has been introduced, and Dr. Pearson wrote already. He said, this thing here is not correct. But let's talk about this whole idea of holidays, religious holidays, specifically Muslim holidays, because the Muslims have been complaining. They say, well, we have like Easter, we have fast and prayer, and that fast, even though both Muslim and Christian fast, but that fast and prayer is mainly a Christian fast and prayer that is on the country. So Muslim holidays. Dr. Pearson, I want you to go first, because you already read your paper. I was stating some disagreement about this whole idea of these religious holidays. You have a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. No, I think I'm not against the bill as it is. Technically, I'm concerned about some of the factors that are concerning that we need to pay attention to, which is the bigger picture. First of all, I want to say hands down, we Christians have a dominant presence in Liberia. That's a fact. Even though our special religious days are not quote unquote enshrined in laws, but we do have those privileges given us, unlike the Muslims, brothers and sisters. That's a fact. There is a strong sentiment when it comes to the conversation. That's also a fact. But I go beyond that to say that then it's within the Sahel and within West Africa, we've had a very strong push from jihadists who are trying to propagate those strong Islamic policies and political linings in West Africa. Africa Coast is a victim of that, as we Guinea.
Who are jihadists?
Huh?
Who are jihadists?
Jihadists, you know, people who want you to practice Islam to the full extent of the law, of the Islamic law that you see happening in other Islamic led states across the Sahel. That's what we're talking about. So in as much that Edwin Snow, our brother, what is his name, former minister, Conan, will have good intentions. We just have to be careful before we give the wrong signal out there and make some religious extremists feel that Liberia is a fertile bed to push those kinds of things in our country. I think we should find a way that we can accommodate all religious groups, not only Christians and Muslims, all different religious groups in the country, in a way that we have some level of equity. But I think going as far as legislating holidays for religious groups, I think it's going to be a bad trajectory for our country under the current circumstances.
Just to be clear, if we have a Muslim holiday, then you say the jihadists will do what?
So let me give you this something. Those of us who study deep when it comes to ideology, when you look at those who try to win people over onto extremist views, they look for certain key things. We call it trigger. So for instance, if your Muslim population in Liberia are agitating for representation instead of national identity, they're looking at religious identities. It becomes a bed for them to send in cash and money to push that agenda. And when that agenda is pushed, there's a bigger agenda beyond that simple agenda that they have for just that simple religious equity. And so the next thing you start to find out is that when they start to fund these activities underhand, the next thing you see them doing is to push the extremist view into the religious conflict that we develop.
Dr. Douglas, I'm not coming to you. Let me go to Dr. Booty, because that's a slippery slope, right? If we give them a holiday, then they will do this, then they will do this. Then, Dr. Booty, what do you think of
Mr. Douglas?
Wait, Anthony, your turn coming. Let me
Your
get
turn
hold
coming.
on, Anthony. Hold on, Anthony. That they topic I've been waiting for. Let me talk.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where are you know?
You have the floor, Dr. Budi.
No, yeah, please. Thank you. Thank you for correct informing me. Yeah, look, in 2016, right, May 2016, when then Senator Joel Howard Taylor was proposing this nonsense about establishing Liberia as a Christian nation, I wrote an article, opinion piece in the Front Page Africa. I think that was my first ever opinion piece in a Liberian newspaper. And I just put the link into the chat so people can have a look at it. And I basically titled it, Not in My Name, right? I'm a Christian, right? And I basically said, look, Liberia was never founded on Christian principles, right? If you read Article 1 of the 1847 Constitution, it basically said people should be allowed to practice whatever religion they want to practice, right? Having said that, I'm looking at the different holidays in Liberia. I know everyone will point to Christmas, right? Christmas is not even Jesus. The different holidays in. I don't know what's happening there, but it's not even Jesus Christ's birthday. So it's not a Christian holiday. It's a pagan holiday, right? So you point to me where the Christian holiday is, right? January 1, New Year's Day, not Christian. February 11, Armed Forces Day, not Christian. February 8, Decoration Day, not Christian. March 15, Jingira birthday, not Christian. And I can go fast and pray. Anybody can fast and pray on fast and prayer days, not only for Christians or Muslims. You're Buddhist, if you practice Judaism or whatever, it's fast and prayer. It's for everyone. If you want fast, I have been it, and you go to unification and independence and Flag Day, Thanksgiving Day, similarly. Anyone from any religious background can give thanks on Thanksgiving Day. Don't say Christian Thanksgiving Day. So I'm looking to see where is the Christian holiday.
Dr. Budi, look at the origin of it, right?
Origin of what?
These holidays you're talking about, and they also added Sunday.
Dennis, you tell me now. I just gave you the list. Tell me which one is a Christian holiday.
And you say Christmas is not a Christian holiday; it's a pagan holiday.
It is a pagan holiday.
Dr. Budi, I'm sorry, but that's a very simplistic way of explaining this.
And that's how I choose to explain it, Mr. Tuchel. Let me do my explaining simplistically. That's how I choose to explain it. You can come with a complicated explanation when your tongue is there to do, but that's my choice. Because at the end of the day, I looked at it before coming on, and I've got it in front of me here now. There isn't any holiday that you can point to and say, this one is a Christian holiday. Because Easter is not in there. I didn't even know it was there, because in the UK, we celebrate Easter as a holiday, right? And I was asking somebody in Liberia today, during Easter, you're off? They said, no, we're off, we're working.
I don't know. This after Easter, there's a Monday after Easter.
It's not a holiday in Liberia. Easter
Monday? The kids didn't go to school. I don't know what is.
I think it's the religious schools. The religious schools might not be open, but it's not a public holiday that is enshrined by the legislature of Liberia, right? It is not a. I'm looking at the list. It is not a public holiday. Christmas is the only one that people can argue about. Now, having said that, look, at the end of the day, I do not believe that we need to have a Muslim holiday in Liberia. Right? Because we do not have a Christian holiday. Because the next thing you will have, we need a Buddhist holiday. We need a holiday for the Jewish people. We need an Africanist holiday as well. Because obviously the African religions, we can't forget about them. They will want their holidays as well. So when do we stop with the whole holiday nonsense, right? At the end of the day, secondly, when you say, okay, let's have Ramadan as a holiday, which day are we going to pick for Ramadan? Ramadan changes every year. So how do we set it as a holiday? People have to think about the practicalities of these things, right? How do we set Ramadan as a holiday? Because all of the other holidays are fixed. Second Monday, fifth Thursday, whatever, or a specific date. How do you look? There are bigger issues.
So Abraham Day.
I'm going to learn so you can bring other people in. When I wrote that piece in 2016, the point I was trying to make is, look, we've just been talking about the bigger issues in Liberia. People dying from when they're not supposed to be dying in hospitals, children dying from starvation. The city is overrun by dirty water. There's not enough electricity. People are stealing money from. Those are the bigger issues that people should be concerned about than bringing this nonsense about holiday, about this religious holiday. And this, this is just a demonstration of how far off from the reality of the Liberian people these people are, because they sit in these high whatever castles or whatever, because they steal money, like Madam Moba said, with impunity. So they just believe,
let's see, we're drunk today. Well, we can think, holiday, I like I'm holiday. That's just nonsense. Thank you. Mr. Dukle.
Yes.
By the way, Mr. Dukle is an Islamic scholar.
I just want to disagree with Dr. Bodi here when he says um, Christmas is not seen as a Christian holiday. Well, you could see it that way, but that's not how it is seen in Liberia. And when I say in Liberia, that's not how it is seen by most people in Liberia and even the Liberian government. They see it as a Christian holiday. You might not agree with that, but that's why it is, and that's how it is perceived, and that's how it is treated in Liberia. Now,
That's how it is practiced.
yeah, that's how it is practiced. And I must tell you guys on this show, I'm a Muslim, but I'm not one of those people who are in support of this so-called Islamic holidays. For the simple reasons. Look, you did mention one of them. That's on Ramadan. There is never a time that I can remember in Liberia and other places where there are Muslim majority where they have agreed on a particular day to end the Ramadan. There isn't. I lived in Egypt for 10 years. There was not a single day. I mean, they're a lot more organized. They follow their whatever the Mufti says, whether you agree or not, that's what happens. Besides that, look, I always said we can have what I call reasonable accommodation. Meaning, if you're a Muslim and this day is your day, you can ask your employer to be given that time off so you can celebrate with your family. I don't see nothing wrong with that. Instead of coming to have national holiday. When I read about this, I was actually planning to write a piece and publish it so that I can make my views known. Because sometimes people harbor some feelings for political correctness. They don't say them. And an example of what I'm trying to say here is what Dr. Pearson was saying. That is a misread. It's a complete misread of this situation, because you see, if somebody like Prophet Key says it, I wouldn't put any weight behind it, But when somebody like you say it, I would take it very high, because Prophet Key is one of those people who says, oh, if you give Muslims speakership, they will ask for the president. All the kind of nonsense that he spew out there. So we can live in harmony as we have without having these so-called holidays in the way they want to have them, And so, yes, we would argue that we have been, marginalized religiously in many aspects of Liberian political life, social life, or whatever you want to call it, But I don't think this is the way to fix that. I don't think legislation you don't have a unified Eid day when it comes to the end of Ramadan. Yeah, even Abraham Day. There are people who have a different day other than what majority of the countries will have. But what's wrong with accommodating Muslims who are Liberians to be allowed to celebrate this day with their families? So that you make it in a way. If you're a Jew in Liberia and your whatever occasion that you have, your employer should be able to accommodate you. If you're a Muslim, the same thing. What's wrong with that? So I think these politicians are just pondering, trying to attract some relevance. But I don't see any need for going to the legislature to have Muslim holiday, And we can talk about the historical alienation of Muslims in many areas. We can talk about that. But I don't think this is one of those solutions that people want to see, or when it comes to equity, among Muslims and Liberia, Muslims and Christians. Remember, there are many other religions in Liberia. It's just that Muslims and Christians are the two largest religious groups in Liberia, like many other places. So, I mean, since when have we had? I can tell you guys, I used to know somebody who was the chaplain of the armed forces of Liberia. Can anyone tell me who? Do you know anybody? Have you heard anybody who was the imam of the armed forces of Liberia? No. Usually, the government when they come to whatever they are doing, they open their prayers. It's a Christian prayer. Have you ever heard somebody in the government opening a government meeting with a Muslim prayer? No. I mean, there are many other things, but I don't think.
Why are you talking about Christian and Muslim? all two Christian and Muslim, they all imported religion. What's about traditional
They
African
are, but
belief?
I guess my point being here
No,
is
but chaplains
the
does
way
not only have to be a Christian. A chaplain can be a Muslim. It's just someone that provides spiritual, religious, and spiritual support. You know,
again,
it doesn't
Dr.
have to
There
be.
has been no Muslim
Just yeah,
chaplain.
but I don't think it's by design. They didn't say no Muslim can apply. They did.
Okay, the
And
point
when
is
you say,
that
"Oh, let's accommodate," when you say let's accommodate Muslim, are we not accommodating? Do people stop Muslim from taking Ramadan off when they want to?
that's not
Just 1 second, quick.
Let me go to
Bebina.
when you say chaplain anywhere in Liberia, the chaplain has always been Christian.
And that's not good because you can't say, "Oh, because you see the dark and you say it's light, so that means light." Right?
The point I'm making here is you're trying to find the word chaplain in its linguistic form, but in
How
its
else are we supposed to define it if it's not the linguistic form?
there's the practical form. The practical form is whoever has held that position in Liberia has always been a Christian.
And it's not by denying Muslims from holding it. That's the point I'm
Of
trying
course
to
it
make.
is. Of
And
course.
it's not.
Dr. Budi, the fact that you're making the comment you're making and talking about accommodation itself is provocative, and it's the very sentiments that got us what we are talking about, trying to pass a law. You sound like you're trying to accommodate Muslims. Muslims are no. Let me talk. Muslims are as much citizens of Liberia like any Christians are. We got VAR Muslims. We got Mandingo Muslim. We got a lot of different tribes that are Muslim. Let me just say this. For the record.
I want to move on, man.
No, let me just say that for the record. We are more accommodated as Christians in Liberia than the Muslims are, not because of any form of equity, but simply because that we believe that religion was forced on us at the forming of the state. So let us not argue this. We shouldn't argue that. We should say, like Dr. Dukle is saying, we should find a way that the law speaks to accommodation rather than maybe passing particular holidays. That makes sense. But we cannot deny the fact that the Muslims are not.
We need to speak to them.
Yeah, let us not. Deconti, Muslim Christian holidays and the.
Well,
most of the time and two things, right? What you hear is, oh, this is not important now. So we have more urgent issues to address than this one. Well, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. Secondly, what are the issues that are confronting us and how do we fix them? Will the introduction of a Muslim or Christian holiday fix those issues? And to what extent are we going to be helped as a country when we introduce this or that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've listened to some other shows, and what I've heard from a lot of, well, let me actually move back. I want to disagree first with Dr. Pearson. I think it's important because when we start to say things like, when we have this and jihadists and so forth, sometimes we tether a little bit around like the Western Islamophobia in which they use that kind of language as an excuse to enter into a lot of African countries and claim that they're fighting against jihadists and that's why they're there. I think we have to be very careful, especially now with what is happening within the Sahel regions, with when we talk about things like jihadists and how this could lead to an increase of that activity. I think we have to be a little bit careful. So I want to say that first. And on the other end, I've listened to a lot of talk shows and I've heard people call, and a lot of what I heard from people is like, Liberia was founded on Christian principles. This is a Christian country, so forth and so forth. And, for some of those people, I think we start to tread the line of like, are we attempting to have an ethno-Christian state? Like, is that what we're saying that we want, which is not. I don't necessarily think that the legitimizing of Muslim holidays is significant. I'm not going to lie. I don't know how it is going to necessarily change the day-to-day material conditions of Liberian people across religious groups, including Muslim people. Now, I do agree that there is an emphasis placed on Christian beliefs, and I put this in quotation because within Liberia, I'm not even sure what people mean when they say we were founded on Christian principles, because I'm still looking for those Christian principles. I don't see it. And then, of course, we talk about the repackaging of how religion is introduced through colonialism, even thinking about, the amount of violence that have been done within the name of Christian faith, right? So that's again to Dr. Pearson's point of jihadists. I'm like, look at the Christians, right? Colonialism, the entire manifest destiny of the world was done under the guise of Christianity. So I think for me, I'm more concerned about like, how does this actually change the material conditions of Liberians? I don't see it. I don't know. I can't see it. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Anthony, when I asked him, man, what you mean by jihadists, you were laughing. You love that question, I could tell.
because I would love to disagree with my brother, Dr. Pearson. That is such an absurd statement to make, that when you give Muslim people, holidays, that means that it triggers jihadists. What about Christianity? We see a lot of conversion camps happening all around the world. Did you talk about that as well too? Or you just left it up to jihadist group to specify how it's only that Muslim holidays will bring in the bad people into Liberia? I think that's wrong. But I'd love to comment on the situation at hand. I think that we have to look at this law or this bill to be from a strategic standpoint, right? We don't know what's going on between those three people's minds of why it is that they want to actually pass this bill. Well, from a standpoint of a societal from a person of a societal standpoint, I'll go ahead and say that I am not against it, but we have to be very careful about how we look at the bill that we're passing, right? If it's going to do anything else with our people and make them to be, more religious center, where they are negating other people's needs because they're not Christian, or they're negating other people's needs because they're not Muslim, right? And I'll agree with my sister's Deconti as well. People say that Liberia was founded on Christian principles. I'm still waiting on when we will be holding our corrupt lawmakers, our people then that kill our people then during the war. I'm still waiting on when we will hold these people accountable. I'm still waiting on how we can allow people to use the church for monetary gains, and they hold no accountability underneath the law of the Constitution of Liberia. So what is there for us to be in disagreements? I mean, we're allowed to disagree, but how are we disagreeing to the point of not looking at what it is that Christian churches are doing? Are we very critical on the Christian churches as we are on the mosques as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one pastor just killed his girlfriend. I think he was sentenced.
And we see this all the time in Liberia, in the name of pastors, or in West Africa. You will have pastors going on Facebook Live. They'll be doing all kinds of ungodly things. They'll be having their church member calling them all kinds of names, spiritual names, right? You will have them doing all kinds of theatrics in the church of God. But when it comes to recognizing other people's holiday, we're like, oh, no. Well, we're not even looking down on what's happening in our own homes, in our own house. We go to church every day. Do we criticize the church that we go to? So
thank you.
I'm not done yet.
You have 30 seconds to be done.
Okay. Why I say that when it comes down to other people, for us to be more inclusive, right, for us to be more diverse, we are always asking the harder questions on them, but not on ourselves.
That's a fair question. Alice, I want you to close on this.
Okay, so basically, I am not in favor of whatever the three lawmakers are doing. I think it's just a distraction, and it's intended for political gains. I don't see anywhere in Liberia where our Muslim brothers and sisters are not accommodated. They are already accommodated. I've worked with Muslim people, and nobody has ever been fired from job.
They say when witch crying kill your child, you say witch doesn't exist.
Well, okay,
the people who
I have worked with
lies are telling you, say, hey, this is how we feel when we go to school. We don't feel that this is how we feel. And you say, no, don't feel that way.
Well, this is what I see. I'm speaking from my own perspective.
Okay.
All right. So I work with Muslims, and I have never seen one that was fired because they stay home because of the end of Ramadan. People respect the holidays, but to put it in the Constitution, it's a problem they are trying to create. And like I said, these lawmakers that starting this, they just want to gain some favor, but deep down in their minds, that's not what they're trying to do. Liberia, people say Liberia was founded on Christian principle. Even when Joel Howard was trying to make a law into the Constitution, I was not in favor of that. Well, people that came to Liberia and founded Liberia, they might have been Christians, but it does not mean that the nation is a Christian nation. We might have majority Christians, and some people join in the name that they are Christian, but it's not that they are really Christians. Because look at the people, some people behavior. It doesn't suggest they are ever Christians. What happened during the war? People were cannibals. Are they Christians? All these people that were witch doctors, now everybody turned to men of God and women of God. All the medicine has gone in the churches. So people should stop spoiling the name of God. So I do not agree anybody putting in the Constitution or Christian holiday or Muslim holiday. People can celebrate their God, separate the church and the state. People can celebrate their God the way they want to. If somebody say tomorrow we end in Ramadan and talk to your supervisor, I think they should give you the go ahead to stay home. Nobody should be like, no, you have to come to work. If you are Christian, you want to stay home to go to church on Christmas Day, do that. Nobody need to stop you. They got way too many holidays. All they need to do, cut down J.J. Robert birthday, Todman birthday, make one day for President's Day. Staying home too much and just encouraging laziness. Why stay home every day, holiday? You're supposed to be using that time to go to work.
Yeah, thank you, Alice. We have 9 minutes to close, but I want us to discuss this because it's a touchy subject, especially me being a talk show host. If I talk, they say, oh, you don't like the other people, right? But I watched the relaunch of Class Reloaded, and I will say as it is, right? And where you see top government officials, I think the only person absent there was President Boakai, right? And I said to myself, what happened when the newsmakers become news reporters because you are reporting on yourself? What impact will it have on our, media landscape? And what exactly are you doing? Because they're saying we have to tell our own story. Well, if you did something, why don't you call the independent press? But because I had a media institution and they're my competitor, I can't say much. But what do you think about the government of Liberia having it? You have a senator, you have the information minister, everybody there, top government official, they say they want to tell their story. Dr. Budi, what you make of this? Is it? And I also want to mention we have a new way. There's things are new now. The social media has revolutionized everything, and so you can be quick to kind of criticize. So I want to get what's your take on the government? We have the government at ELBC. You have this, you have that. Now the small little space we have the government there again. So they're going to put my people out of business in Liberia. What's your take?
Yeah, I'll do mine quickly. I think first of all, let me say thanks to Madam Wilson Mulba. That was very good in terms of the way you put it. Right, I've got a controversial way of doing it. You're canceled Christmas, then let's forget about the whole Christian and Muslim holiday because that's the only holiday your thing. But anyway, I think look, it's complete nonsense.
Thank you.
What these guys are trying to do, because at the end of the day, it is, and Madam Wilson Mulba used the word impunity, which I've used many times on another talk show on this platform. It is this knowledge by our officials of government, because you've got a guy like Mo Ali who said, oh, if we disobey the Supreme Court ruling, let the investors and stay away. That's the man that go and report objective news. According to him, he will be objective when he speaks to the Liberian people about their successes and failures in government. This is a mockery of the Liberian people. Unfortunately, they will continue to do these things until the Liberian people themselves, because again, for me, I'm in the diaspora, and there is I ain't going protest for anybody in Liberia because I'm not tax money they're eating. So we will keep talking here. That's all we can do. We can give them the education, but the Liberian people need to smell the rat, right? This is unacceptable. You do not have in any civilized society officials of government reporting on themselves. You can't do it. The independent media serves a purpose. They can be objective, right? Objective. They can look at the facts and communicate the facts based on their understanding of the facts, not based on subjective reasoning. Like, oh, I want the people to think I'm doing it this way, so let me say it like that. No, they cannot be objective. And look, I'm going to stop because this is just a mockery of the Liberian people, right? And you see all of them standing there in their t-shirt and holding their thing with their BB gun there in front of them, stealing all the money for generator and all kind of thing. It can vex me, let me shut up. Yeah.
Yeah. And you cannot deny, Duklin, that state resources are being used, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Not only that, then they have zero credibility. Zero credibility. They are not credible. So again, this is one more example to show to the world how these people don't care about the well-being of the Liberian people. Because listen, they will say in America the kitchen. The people in Liberia. Hello?
Yeah,
can you guys hear me? Yeah. So you see, this is one more distraction from their miserable performance. This is one more excuse they want to give people. I mean, since when? I mean, they are not credible. Nobody will listen to them, and they are not going to be. They're not honest. They are not going to be. I mean, because of show like this and other shows where we are critical of politicians and their performance, sometimes some people will have a second thought for doing certain things. And you expect the same old people that are responsible for the misery of Liberia to actually report on their performances. It's a mockery. And I was talking to a friend who said to me, "Let me tell you,
we have an issue with your.
What are they doing? What do they do? With all the digital, with all the online, with all the social media platform we have, what do we have? Ministry of Information with polluted employees for nothing. Government money is going to them. I mean, do we actually need that? Again, these guys are in it for themselves, and nothing is prioritized to them than themselves. This is one more example to distract people from their miserable and their dismal performance in government, so that here we are talking about them.
Thank you. Anthony, you could also argue that the media landscape has changed, right? And so we have, especially during the election, there's media stations that are like, they are so partisan. And when they ran campaign, they won. So people look at that and say, hey, there is so much influence in these social media platforms. So I'm not going to sit by and let people beat on me. I'm going to get out there myself and report on what I'm doing, because I have to tell my own story. Very lately, the newest party on the block, CMC, they launched their own social media platform. They say political launch, right? So this is the new trend. I mean, we just have to kind of either live with it or do what? Anthony.
I blame Joseph Borga for this. I blame him. I mean, as a leader who has appointed these people, the first thing you should have done when they proposed this idea to even you was to fire them. Because as a public servant of the Liberian people, you are more focused on clearing your side than actually doing your work that you're supposed to be doing and improving the people's lives. You expect me to believe that Mo Ali, the person that said he dug 750-foot hole in Liberia, in Bobolu, to come and tell me credible things? You know how long 750-foot hole is? So my point here that I'm trying to make here is that I will go as far to say that we are the most credible platform to report news because we give unbiased, and even if people give unbiased opinions, I mean, and it still doesn't side with whatever right or wrong, we still go ahead and we check them on this panel, right? But on other platforms, you see these people doing it for political gains and for economical gains. We have seen people get hired from Spoon TV because of their, likeness of the government, right? When the government is doing poor, we're seeing people get hired from Spoon TV because just because they're not criticizing or they're talking in defense of corrupt officials. So what will make me to go and tune into the Class Reloaded or Unloaded? I call them what? I call them what I need to I give them in the chat. I give them the majority block.
Oh.
They are the majority block because they are the same ones that are doing the crimes coming to account. Tell you to Liberian people say, oh, I said that money that people are talking about on Spoon TV and focus on Liberia, forget. But here's what I did instead. You are shifting the people's narratives. You're being manipulative. This is Animal Farm 101 right here. We're witnessing in 4K.
Thank you. Thank you. If you see Judge and me, our times is Deconti, then Clarence, then Alice.
I think what political elites have been able to master is what propaganda is. And I think that those of us, we need to catch on. Those of us who have done a little bit of community organizing, we understand the significance of media literacy. And we know that the people that we're fighting against also understand the significance of media literacy, right? And propaganda, even this show, right? I think a lot of times when people say things like objective and subjective, it is the political correct thing to say, but a lot of us are subjective, and subjectivity is not a bad thing. When we come on this show, we're subjective in that we're thinking about the people of Liberia and their needs, and we too have propaganda, right? And so last time I was on this show, I talked about the battle of ideas. This new platform is their understanding of a battle of ideas. And I think it is now upon us, those of us who understand that we need to push a different kind of propaganda, that we need to push a different kind of subjectivity, we have to now do the work to reach the public to be able to counter what they're hearing from other people, right? So I'm not so much focused on the show itself because I don't see why we would have expected something different. A government, we're seeing the same thing in the US. A government is going to create systems around itself in order to maintain itself. That's what it's supposed to do. Now we have the work of going ahead and head on countering all of those narratives, head on challenging those narratives, being more studied than they are, being more principled than they are, being more grounded in some kind of political ideology than they are. And we have to win that war of propaganda. If we lose it, that is on the people. That is not on them, right? So Liberians, FOL, these shows that are actually dedicated to the truth, it is our job to win that battle of idea and to win that political propaganda.
Thank you. Dr. Pearson, they say government next to God. Can you fight these people?
Yeah. Let me just say quickly, Russell, Daganti and others, listen, the issue about the Islamic movement in Africa, West Africa, it's a matter of research. You can look it up. It's not fallacy. But let me say this about the Class Reloaded, right? The Class Reloaded. Dennis, when you went in the town and the town crier has taken on the job to wake the town up instead of the rooster, it tells you how hungry the town is. It means hunger has overtaken the town because all the rooster has been eaten. All the roosters have been eaten. Liberia right now, the country is in hardship. I was just there. And even sitting where I am sitting right now, the burden of the people is strong because you can tell it from your mobile money account balance. You can tell it from your Western Union balances. You can tell it from your MoneyGram balances, right? So right now, if the entire town had become town crier, it means to say the roosters are all eating. The guys are eating all the roosters. The people are hungry. They're starving. So now the best thing we can do as a people is not to listen to these guys, but to listen to the ordinary people in the streets. What are they saying to the microphones when the media people take the microphone to them? Are they saying, oh, okay, in the country is high and more? Are they saying no? Okay. So who do you believe? You believe the hungry people, or you believe the man who's just saying about word of mouth? You know, so I say people to judge. I go what technically is saying. I mean, if they level I alone, which you have a strong communication arm from the government to tell the people what's happening and let the people know what's going on in the country and what they are doing, I have no problem with that. But if they are lying, the people will be able to tell, because the hungry man will know whether it's stomach full or not.
Thank you, Alice.
You know, the work that people do should be seen by other people. So if the government is doing what she's supposed to do, like Renpo has the saying that experienced players do not fight for Jesse. So if you know you're doing a good work, why would you want to run competition with people that are on social media anyway? If you are giving your people food to eat, if you are bathing the roads, if you are having good hospitals, why would you want to go on social media to explain it? It's the people that are going to explain that, not the government officials, because the government is working for the people. It's government for the people. So government should not be blowing her own trumpet. It has to be the people that are benefiting. We're not going to, be worried about this. People that are objective that come on the show, because people on the show, they're not looking for jobs, Baikum. They're not trying to please anybody. We're going to say what we have seen. Yeah, I said it on the show that when I went back home, I saw that the highway from Monrovia to Kepamas is being built. But there are a lot of abandoned vehicles along the way that are be killing people because of accident. People run into the vehicles. And who is responsible to remove them? So you say exactly what you see. But you're not going to, come and say, oh, everything is just bread and butter because you want to be noticed. You want to be appointed, to hear some ministry because you were talking something good about the government. Then you are not being honest to yourself. Then you're not even talking for the people. If you're doing something to benefit yourself, then don't call the Liberian people. You have to be honest because you're working between you and your God. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Someone told me, say, if we are winning that Kalasco, then we have a problem. George. Yeah, we are one fan when they say ask Kalasco. You say what Kalasco.
Goodness.
George, we have some callers?
No calls yet.
All right, please announce our numbers again. We have 5 minutes to close.
Okay, so wherever you are, if you just joining us on the program, focus on Liberia on Care Radio 95.9. The numbers to call 0777 959 959 0881 871 670. The Lone Star number 0881 871 670, and the orange number 0777 959 959. The numbers to call and be a part on the show this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Budi. You think Dry will say anything bad about pepper and salt? No way.
I'll just say in the background to my I say, look, then you say nobody won't be appointed. Dennis won't be superintendent of Sano County. He says, yeah. So he might be speaking the way he speaks, because he wants to be appointed superintendent.
Good afternoon and good morning.
Yes, good afternoon, my brother. Your name, where are you calling from?
Okay, I'm calling from Liberia. I am Mr. Wisman.
Welcome to the program.
Mr. Wisman.
Okay,
my brother, the issue of the discussion, I want to say things to you very much because many of the times I listen to you people. You people are doing very well for us. We are dying here slowly. We are dying here slowly. Let me just say this. A man who is in the grave in halfway to be rescued, and you see a drunk truck coming with a load of dead to dump it on him. This is the situation we are living in our country. Can you imagine? I work for $50, which is 10,000, and I'm transporting myself $1,200 a day. But when I come to town, I am stranded. I gotta go to my church place to sleep until Friday before I can make my way back here. This is a very devilish attitude of the government that we are living on. And believe it or not, uncle man is an uncle man. Situation will just bring more lecture or more than ever in this country.
Okay. Good evening.
Hello.
Yes. Your name, where you calling from?
Yeah.
Yes, my brother, please, the feedback. Can you please lower your monitor a little bit? The feedback from your end.
Sorry for that.
Okay, ma'am. You're welcome.
My name is Mary.
Your name? Mary? Oh, we lost you that. The numbers are called 0777 959 959 0881. Yes, let me take this person right here. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Yes, your name, where you calling from?
My name is Mary. I'm calling from Kingston.
Welcome to the program, my brother.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my issue have with a crowd of first that I think the way of the opposition is for the government to not get bargaining power. If you work with government to propagate their message well, so you can retain back to power. What I'm doing the time I was working. So I don't see any issue with adding other funds with night to propagate the government here. What do I do? I don't see any issue with it.
Okay, my brother. Let me take the other caller yet. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Your name, where you calling from?
I'm calling from District 14.
Welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you so much for the discussion. But some of us, we know so well that Blaga never came to rescue this country. It was honor of false preaching. Couple years back, he was living alone. He was vice president for 2 years. Nothing show. Now Blaga, because president, he based on US house, he lost US land. What we are saying for Blaga? It was not street. But just some of our family members, our brothers, who never saw it clear. But it's clear to the world that Blaga never came to rescue us. He came to rescue he and his family and abandoned soul. Thank you so much.
Okay, my sister. Let me tell another person on the line. Good evening. Good evening.
Hello?
Yes? Your name, where you calling from?
My name is Kuton. I call from Ruaji County.
Welcome to the program. Oh, from Ruaji County. Wow, that's good. So
Yeah.
I Ruaji this evening.
I was in school.
Okay, my brother. You're welcome.
Yeah, but for some of us, we are a little bit disappointed in the reference policy. Hello?
Yes? We can hear you.
Okay. If a government that got the power doing something that is good, let us try to talk about it. Instead of criticizing the government, it's not good for elaborate people. We are not doing good for outside. But the people are doing good, tell me they are doing good. We might go from Regime to kind of Morio. So you want to reach Morio. And what is happening? Let us applaud the government. Thank you.
Okay, my brother. The Dennis, you get any call from your end?
Dennis, you're muted.
Yeah, me too, Mr. Dennis.
We have a caller here. That's Jimmy Eastman from the nation's capital. Go ahead, Jimmy. You're live.
Gentlemen, my name is Jack. Congratulations. Very good panel. I really enjoyed the show. This other young lady who just joined is something else. I can't wait to get to meet her. I'm sorry. I just coming from the mountains. You know, in Liberia, it's really coming from the bush. But over here, my man, I come from the mountains on a project. But I will be fully attending from this time going on. So keep up the good work. This is the best show, the show where you get information that is unbiased. We choose you boom. If you do wrong, we chew you boom. If you do wrong on our side, we chew you boom. So keep it up. There's nothing better than being authentic and unbiased. I just want to congratulate you.
Thank you. And even though I want to be the superintendent of Sino, but not because my mom died, I should start go tete.
Dennis, you are just so full of it.
So, let me take our next caller is that Alice? Alice, you're alive.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Alice.
Hello, my name is Alice. I'm calling from Minnesota.
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you guys for the show. Medical issues discussed in Liberia, very important. So sometimes what I want to say is, being a student of TNI myself, and back to the U.S., went to school yet again, and going home and coming back, I just see that my classmates or my colleagues in Liberia just have this tie-in that they can't do what a typical nurse is supposed to do. Because at some point, I can say whatever material they needed to have in order to even practice or even have the nursing education in healthcare, I don't think they have that. So it's very difficult to practice healthcare in Liberia when you literally just went to school in Liberia yourself. And even way more difficult to practice healthcare in Liberia when you went to healthcare school in America than practice in America and know what it is to practice nursing in the real world. I visited JFK just about last month and saw my colleagues. It's sad. You can't even have good gloves to work with. People think that you should be reusing gloves. Why shouldn't wear it? This is a century that we in now, and people are expected to wash gloves and wear it. When you go to JFK, you see patients, they literally see one another. There is no privacy. I one time visited Ghana Mental Hospital. A patient was coming from the OR. This patient was practically naked, passing through the walls and coming into the room to another patient because the patient had this the hospital gown that is literally ripped off. So it's just so sad. Family had to put a glove on the patient to bring the patient into the ward. The ward said the patient is going to. The next patient is having diarrhea. There is no glove. Family are using their hand to clean the patient off, and the patient that came from the OR is laying down the other side. The ethical part of it's just hard. There is no ethical practice. There is no healthcare practice. So it's just super hard. But I think people just need to continue to talk. To educate people in these things. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me get our last caller is Benjamin Jonah, who's also a nurse, and the guy who I remember had the longest talk show on Facebook. The man will have the show, he sleep, he get up, he stay having the show. Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, man. Sorry, man. I gotta call you, but anyway. So first of all, I'm having a problem with how a lot of times people accuse everybody in Liberia as the healthcare workers making mistakes. No. Then it's hard. The people are doing the best that they can, and I think they need a little bit of encouragement. No one is saying that when they make mistakes, we should not call them out. The thing is, when you ask people what really happened to this case that we talk about, nobody can tell you anything straight. It's only hearsay, they say, and the other say. And we don't have enough. And you start to criticize the entire system and say the system is so bad. We must all remember, those of us who came abroad to learn, that's what the system that we had before. That was the system that was working for us. Yes, we learn new things. So it is good for us to improve upon these new things. But we must understand at the same time that the people that are there do not have what we have. So in our criticism, we got to be very careful so that we do not discourage them. And the last thing that I want to say, one of the panelists talked about, Muslims, and what he was trying to say was dog whistles, that Muslim dog do kill people. But let him know that Christians kill more people in this war than Muslims. Not even close. World War I, World War II, all of these countries that fought, most of them were all Christian countries. So if you want to talk about who kill people more, it's Christians. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are all the colors we have from here. At this time, we're going to go around the room for your closing time. It's fast spent. Dr. Budi, you in the UK. Let's start with you.
You're finna keep me out later. Now you worry about how late it is here. No, listen. It's a great. It was a great show.
They say if you don't want a sudden death, don't take your father's title. You took your father's title now, so be brave.
No, I think it was a great show. I appreciate all of the various points of view that were put forward. I think those who are listening in Liberia and want to learn and are willing to do right will listen and do just that. It's unfortunate that we lost Madam Doe. It's unfortunate that we lost Jamesetta to circumstances that are avoidable. And we hope that we can keep talking about these things and that our government will listen. And we implore the Liberian people to speak out for themselves as well. But thank you so much, and great show.
Thank you. Dagonti?
Yes, thank you to all my panelists. Once again, I think all of the issues that we continuously talk about and how do we get out of it is, to the Liberian people, we have to leave this duopoly alone. We have to leave the CPP, the CDC, the UPP, the MMM, the EEE. We have to leave the duopoly alone and think about new solutions to these issues versus recycling the same old people. We get tired of one person, we run to the other people. They do us wrong, we run to the other side. We need to organize as a people. We need to be clear in what our political ideologies are as a country, and we need to invest in grassroots movements in Liberia.
Thank you. Mr. Dukley.
Dennis, I just can't stop laughing when I think of your crab example.
Yeah, so. They told me to study, man. They came by still walking one side.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, Dennis, and thank you to my fellow panelists. I think it was a very helpful discussion, and we all do well. It is just unfortunate that we have to be talking about somebody going to give birth and then they die. It's unfortunate, and it's something that shouldn't happen. But we have politicians who don't have conscience, and whose primary objectives in government is to enrich themselves, and that's it. But we are not going to stop talking. We're going to keep talking. Somebody somewhere who might be listening, some of these things might have impact on that, you never know. So we are not going to stop talking. And Dennis, I think it's about time now to give you the medal that you so dearly deserve for the good job you've been doing for Liberia, actually. And this is no joke, actually. So, I want to say thank you to all my fellow panelists. I really enjoyed being on the show today.
Thank you. Doc? Dr. Pearson?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Dennis, for having me tonight. Thanks to my fellow panelists for the show tonight, and to our listeners out there. Please check your doors and your windows and make sure they're locked before you go to bed tonight. And Georgie, get home safe. Listen, let me say this. Things do happen in hospitals. Some of them is not intended. They happen. Some of these circumstances are just what it is. But it's unfortunate that we've lost a sister, Jamesetta, in this crisis. And also Madam Doe, who passed away. It's a sad thing. We want to say sympathy to the entire bereaved families out there, both cases. And I would say I think we should strengthen our laws when it comes to medical malpractices and stuff like that. Let us tighten those laws so that people feel some level of restraint to pay due diligence to the job. But again, I want to say I acknowledge the work that our nurses and doctors are doing out there, and we can see your level of efforts that you've applied. Despite the few bad ones, there are more good people than the bad ones out there. So I want to thank them for the work that they are doing under the circumstances. And lastly, as I leave the show tonight, I don't think we need a national holidays for any religious group. I think Christians are unfairly dominating Muslims, and there's no way can, as a Christian myself, there's no way I can deny that. But what I can say is that let us find a way that we can harmonize and make it a little equitable across the country for all religious groups and even traditional groups to have a fair play in the practice of their beliefs.
Yeah, thank you. Anthony.
Yes, first and foremost, I want to thank everyone that's been listening. And it is actually a pleasure to be on the show to discuss our issues with you guys. But to speak overall on the issues that we have discussed, I think that it's important for our people to be educated and our people to understand that education is the only way. I don't mean like the education you sit down in school, but the ones where you educate yourself about the things that are happening around you, the things that are supposed to happen, and how we can build ourselves a better nation. It is through education that we can only do these things, right? So we have to understand that our mindset has to grow as we are listening. We shouldn't just come on the show to just listen and then we move on here and we don't discuss the issue outside of it. So we should take it upon ourselves to discuss these things amongst our community, and that's how we build and strengthen the core of our society, which is by having discussions amongst the community and building a stronger society or tradition or culture. Yeah.
Thank you. Alice, you got a last word.
Well, again, I want to extend my condolences to First Lady, Madam Nancy Doe. And I also want to extend condolences to Jamesetta. So basically, as I said from the beginning, things do happen. The government should reconsider if they owe any money to Madame Doe, and then look into it and give little things to the family so that, at least everything would be fair, because she played a big role as the first indigenous first lady in a mansion. So that is a great work. Jamesetta, I want the government to try to investigate and give punishment to whoever did wrong, or educate if there were mistakes made. That should be a point of education so that it will not happen again. Muslim holiday, I'm against that. I think the lawmakers are trying to open Pandora bags. We do not want to fix things that are not spoiled. Everybody got a fair share in Liberia. We've been working together as a nation, and we've never had any major problem. So don't start it. Lawmakers trying to be journalists, I think you should focus on your work. By your fruits, you shall know them, the Bible says. So continue to do your work, and it will come down to the Liberian people to feel what you are doing instead of going on the social media to tell everybody what you are doing. I don't think that's the right way to go, even though you got freedom of speech, but give the people a chance. Let them be the ones to evaluate you. Thank you.
Thank you. We wanted the newsmakers to come on the show, come on our show. That way I will get views, and then I will have money to pay my people in Liberia. If you do it, if you put me out of business, people are losing jobs in Liberia who are working for. Josh, you're closing, so we can call it a day. Thank you again for being there.
Bring
Okay.
more.
All right. Again, we want to thank all of you for coming, and our people in Liberia listening to us. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. By the way, I invested in a Samsung tablet. So this time now my show, because I want to be cool now when I'm hosting the show, right? So, and I want this to I want to get my money back. But thank you again for coming. We thank our viewers. We never close on a broadcast without playing the song that we are all Liberians. Whether you believe we should have a Christian holiday, a Muslim holiday, or you don't believe anything, we are all Liberians. What we all need to join our hands to do is to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Have a good night, and may God richly bless you. We are all Liberians.
Good night, everybody.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.